Hey there, sorry about that. I just realized I had not set up today's program ahead of time. I usually do it at the end of a show. And what in the world was I doing Friday that I hurried up? Oh, I don't remember. I think I was looking at a house. And I had to run. Okay, so we're here. Today is Monday, April 12th, 2021. Today is the anniversary of my parents' wedding. Mom's memory has gone. I've wondered if the reason she hasn't called me in a couple weeks is because she can't remember that she's called, or maybe she doesn't even remember how to use the phone. She did know how to answer the phone. She didn't remember it was her anniversary today. They were married in 49, so was that 70? They made it to 71 years, and of course Dad's gone now. So anyhow, I hope she appreciated that I remembered. I wanted to go back to we were reading Exodus 15 last week, and verse 3 talked about how the Lord, or mentioned that the Lord is a warrior. And I was listening to somebody else, a message, or maybe it was something on Facebook, and it was talking about the Lord being a warrior, and they were quoting Isaiah 42, verse 13. So here's the Lord being a warrior again. And remember, we are made in the image of God. Oh man, that just hit me just now saying that. We're made in the image of God. So that is all the more reason why we need to pay heed to Ephesians 6 and put on the whole armor of God, and having done all, to take your stand against the wiles of the devil. So we're to be warriors as well. And Paul used a lot of military language talking about being a soldier for Christ. And so, that just struck me to hear that warrior is God. That picture of God as a warrior, the Lord as a warrior, is not just something that he said in Exodus 15 when he was fighting for them against Pharaoh and destroyed Pharaoh and Pharaoh's army, but that also in Isaiah, I said 42, verse 13. So I'm turning to that right now. Sing to the Lord a new song, starting at verse 10. His praise from the ends of the earth, you who go down to the sea and all that's in it, you islands and all who live there. Let the desert and towns raise their voices. Let the settlements rejoice. Let all the people shout, sing for joy. Let them shout from the mountaintops. Let them give glory to the Lord. Proclaim his praise to the islands. The Lord will march out like a mighty man, like a warrior. He will stir up his zeal. With a shout, he will raise the battle cry and will triumph over his enemies. That's, I was struck by the Lord being called a warrior in Exodus 15, but I never really had noticed that verse in Isaiah 42. And for all the times I've read through the book, I just love God's word because there's always something fresh and new to realize. There's new insight available all the time. Now we need. I saw somebody on Facebook this morning asked, hey, there are 325 or more million of us and only 535 in Congress. Why can't we do something? Who gives them all that power? And I thought, that's a really good question. What do you propose? And of course, there was no response. That's why that's a big reason why I followed Larry, because I recognize the importance of being involved in doing something. And he didn't have a lot of ideas of what to do, but he did have some, and there were a lot of things that he was doing so that are keeping him alive there was a lot going on behind the scenes that we never had a clue about. So with Biden saying last week that there are no absolute amendments and, the Constitution can be changed on a whim, which of course is what we saw the Supreme Court do when they're supposedly interpreting the law and claiming that there's a right to murder your child. They're I mean, that's 1973. That's a long time of not following what the founders said. I mean, it's such a simple document, not simple to follow all the time, but they're only supposed to interpret, not change it. And I can't believe all the people calling for a convention of states because they want to solidify our rights. And I'm going, how can you think that you're going to not change the Constitution? Because there's no guarantee when every state is allowed to bring in representatives from their state. These blue states are going to be sending in liberals to change and upend the Constitution. It's really frustrating. If you go to countermand amendment, look up countermand, counter like a kitchen counter, and then mand, M-A-N-D, amendment. There is a push. The countermand amendment has been proposed. Pennsylvania and Alaska had passed approval for it, and they didn't get enough states. They didn't get more states beyond that, and I don't know if that approval stands or if they have to go back and start over. I don't know. The countermand movement says that if any law is put forward that states agree is wrong, they can overturn the law. So it's based on states' rights and states' rule. It was interesting. I heard somebody say, and it might have been on Telegram, that, as a sovereign nation, there can be no new world order here. And so what they are trying to do in changing the way we do things is it's deviant. Well, there's not supposed to be any new world order, but there are power elite running our government who agree with the idea of a new world order and are inviting it to, inviting our country into that process. St. Vincent and their volcano. I was going to show you a picture. Hang on, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. The volcano going off. I had heard that people who had not been vaccinated would not be allowed to vacate. And I don't know if that has, I'm going to Facebook, not to YouTube. I don't know if, I had heard over the weekend that the president had said that it wasn't possible. But here's a picture. I don't know if you can see it. Boy, I've got a lot of reflection from my front window. It's very dark, and it looks like snow falling, but it's actually ash that's in the air. So that's Barbados, not even St. Vincent. But I heard today that a lot of people are not evacuating. They're wanting to stay. They're probably scared of what's going to happen to their property if they leave. But, if the volcano runs towards their property, there's going to be no running at that point. And the last I heard is the only people who have evacuated the island were day workers who are, I don't know where they're from, but they were headed next up to Canada to work. And so work farms or something, farm workers. And so they evacuated and took a flight to Canada from a neighboring country, island. Larry had told us many, many times to keep our eyes on what's going on in Israel and the Middle East. Absolutely, Sherry, we must keep our eyes on Jesus and keep our armor on because of the chaos everywhere. Iran's there was a big explosion at the Iran nuclear plant, and they had said over the weekend that they were proceeding. They didn't care about sanctions. They were going to enrich uranium, and they were moving forward. And they had, I don't know if it was an explosion, but everything shut down because of something happened, a cyber attack. And Israel is taking partial credit for that. How much we're involved in, I don't know. The United States now has 2 ships again in the Black Sea, which Russia's not happy about because of, the buildup of saber rattling on the Crimean front. Russia sending more troops to eastern Ukraine, and Merkel called Putin and told him to back down, and he's blaming Ukraine for the escalation. Well, how much of this is a smokescreen to get the focus off any investigation of Hunter Biden? And yet they'll go after Matt Gaetz with accusations when there's proof with Hunter Biden of inappropriate behavior, and it's almost like Hunter wanted to get caught. It's so completely out of control. And then you think about the horrendous things that are happening. You think of the church that where the pastor, the Polish pastor, was in British Columbia, was calling the police Nazis and told them to get out and not to come back without a warrant. And then you hear about the church. I think it was that same church. Was it that same church, or was it Pastor Coates' church that had a fence put up around it so the people couldn't get to the church? And now the people have gone and torn the fence down. So, it's there was a gang who kidnapped 10 priests and nuns, and are holding them for $1 million, $1 million American dollars. They're holding them for ransom. And the same thing's happening in Myanmar, where churches are being ransacked. And we've also always known about this stuff going on in North Korea and China against Christians. So, for us to think that we are going to be completely free of being persecuted is unrealistic. There's persecution certainly happening here with arrest of pastors for opening, keeping their churches open. That's happened in this country too. I thought it was interesting that there was I watched a video of Alex Jones confronting an SUV that was a white SUV that was in front of a Catholic Charities, and the back end of his car was stuffed with children. And there was at least one teenager or adult that I saw in the group. No seatbelts, no car seats for the little ones. They were just packed in there like sardines. And now, when I was growing up in Jamaica, Dad would do that with bunches of pastors that would go to a conference together. They'd have 13 people, and Dad's 13 men. Now they were small men, but 13 men piled up on top of one another, 3 people high in every seat to go to a conference together. That's just quite common in other countries. The World Health Organization is advocating a smart mask that is built in China. And the masks will register every breath you take. So it's another monitoring system. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot more to that than what they have admitted so far. Anyhow, back to Alex Jones, the smuggler. He was screaming at him, "You're smuggling. This is human trafficking. Stop, stop, stop." He was in front of the car trying to keep the guy from from going forward. And so the guy just kept backing up and to get away. And if all those kids came out of Catholic Charities, is Catholic Charities, that's it just makes you wonder, are they involved in trafficking? Have they been involved in it before? I have no idea, but it was horrendous to think that all these kids were piling into one van coming out of the Catholic Charities. They're in Texas. Have you heard that Mueller's opening another investigation on Trump? I mean, boy, I'll tell you, talk about them being terrified of truth coming out. And I read today, there's another thing, persecution of the Jews in New Jersey. There was somebody who was seen going down the street of a Jewish neighborhood of Orthodox Jews, and he slashed all 4 tires of 56 cars in that neighborhood. And so they're afraid to sleep because they're afraid they're going to come back. He's going to come back. And they're wondering, will something worse happen? It just, and then the last item of news is, I read over the weekend how 4 African presidents are dead just recently, because they were blocking having their people stabbed in the arm. You know why? They were blocking it in their country, and so the leaders, 4 different countries, have been blocked. Noonie, let's see. I don't know anything about what you're suggesting about who's buying farmland in Ukraine. I do know that Bill Gates was very happy over the weekend because he is now the largest land and farmland holder in America. And you know what? We need to claim that scripture verse that says the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And he needs to be brought to justice, and everything he owns confiscated and given to the people. We need to claim that, folks, and we have the right to claim it. So, that's where it was. You're going to have to excuse me. I need to move my computer a second and grab the Bible study book we were working from. Sorry about that. Ouch. But I'll tell you, my shoulder has not been okay since I left the hospital. I can raise my arm up, but I cannot move it backwards. I can't, when I try to reach for something that's I can go straight to the left, but if I try to go more than 90 degrees back, it really, really hurts. And it's the soft tissue up in the upper shoulder area. So I don't know what that is. It started in the hospital, but it makes me nervous. It's been 3.5 months and it's getting worse, not better. So I don't know what that is. So we were looking at Exodus 15 and what the Lord did in parting the Red Sea and standing up as a warrior. So I was thinking about, this is a book on prayer and prayers of the Old Testament. And it just reminded me, like I mentioned last week, of Andrew Murray's book titled Practicing the Presence of God, and how Mario Murillo said that instead of prayer interrupting our day should interrupt our prayer because we live constantly in the presence of God. And I think of that often. It's a book I used to have on my nightstand in Maryland. I just had it on the table at the bottom, and it was just, or sometimes I'd have it in the drawer, and I'd pull the drawer open and see the book, and it was just, I loved that title, Practice the Presence of God. because it was a constant reminder of being in a state of being constantly aware of him. And I think that's a really important thing to do. So it suggests that we read Psalm 29. It's a metaphor of a storm to describe God's power, his majesty, and his glory. And so it suggests contrasting and comparing Psalm 29 with Moses' prayer after the crossing of the Red Sea. I'm going to tell you my comparisons, and then I'm going to read the psalm, and that'll be the end for today. It's just a short one. In the psalm, it talks about God's glory and strength, splendor and holiness. Whereas Moses in Exodus talked about God being highly exalted. He's my strength, my song, my salvation. The Lord is a warrior, majestic in power. He threw down the opposition. He unleashed his anger. There was a blast of his nostrils, and the water piled up. Not only is he majestic in power, but he's majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, and working wonders. Because of his love, he leads and redeems. With his strength, he guides, and the nations tremble. So that is the Exodus passage compared to Psalms saying glory, strength, splendor, and holiness. And then again in Psalms, it talks about he has a powerful voice over the waters, with thunder and lightning, a majestic voice. His voice shakes or causes earthquakes. He twists oaks, which to me represents tornadoes, and he strips forests. And he gives strength to the people and blesses them with peace. And, there really were several parallels between Psalm 29 and Exodus 15, and you might want to take a minute. Neither one is very long. And, do a comparison between the two yourself. So I'm going to close by reading Psalm 29. Boy, I sure bought the wrong reading glasses because I have to have it really close to my face, but my eyes are burning today. Ascribe to the Lord, O mighty ones. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. And remember, the voice is so important because God spoke creation into existence. So his voice is so important, and it was God's voice. And of course, it says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And it was with his voice that Jesus called Lazarus back. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord thunders over the mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks in pieces the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon skip like a calf. And, this whole business of a cedar, because, aren't they kind of flexible that they would be breaking, not just bending over? He makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord strikes with flashes of lightning. That just reminded me of the explosion implosion was the word used in Adam's lungs when God breathed into Adam's nostrils. The voice of the Lord shakes the desert. The Lord shakes the desert, and the voice of the Lord twists the oaks and strips the forest bare. And in his temple, all are crying glory. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord is enthroned as king forever. The Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace. And I wish you peace this evening. God bless you, and we will talk again tomorrow afternoon. We're going to go... Man, I can't talk today. We're starting a new prayer tomorrow. We're going to be discussing the prayer of Hannah. This is not the prayer before when she's asking for her son, but it's her prayer after she takes Samuel to the temple, and she's praising the Lord. Remember, even though she had been barren, after she promised that she would give her child to God, he opened her womb and she had more children after that, which was pretty phenomenal for her. So, all right, that's it for today. Talk tomorrow, and the Lord bless you. Thank you, Sherry, for that warning to prep with food and water, because, yeah, with what's coming, yep, it's going to get rough. All right, bye, folks.